mecca of rock and roll in the 60s. You play 16 instruments. They are?
The comb and tissue paper.
Bobby Sherman seemed like the nicest guy in showbiz. Clean-cut, polite, always smiling for the cameras. But behind that squeaky clean teen idol image was a performer who had some seriously strong opinions about his competition. The guy who made millions of teenage girls scream actually had major beef with some of the biggest names in music. Sherman once called a certain famous family group completely fake and said their success made him sick to his stomach. He reportedly walked out of industry parties when specific artists showed up, and there were whispers in Hollywood about feuds that the public never knew existed. The thing about the teen idol world of the 70s was that everything looked perfect on the surface. But underneath all those matching outfits and choreographed dance moves was a cutthroat business where careers could be destroyed overnight. Bobby Sherman wasn't just fighting for chart positions. He was battling for survival in one of the most competitive eras in pop music history. Today we're revealing the shocking truth about Bobby Sherman's secret enemies. From family acts that stole his spotlight to solo artists who copied his style, these are the performers who made the golden boy of pop absolutely furious. Some of these rivalries got so intense that they changed the entire direction of 70s music. The wholesome image was just for show. The real Bobby Sherman had claws, and he wasn't afraid to use them when other artists threatened his empire. 6. The Osmonds. Coming in at number 6, we have the Osmonds, and this rivalry was all about family versus the individual. While Bobby Sherman was building his career as a solo teen heartthrob, along came this massive Mormon family from Utah, and suddenly everyone was talking about them instead of him. Sherman reportedly couldn't stand how the Osmonds dominated the teen magazines that used to feature him on every cover. He once allegedly said in a private interview that their whole family act was calculated manipulation, and that no real family could be that perfect. The tension got so bad that industry insiders claimed Sherman would refuse to appear on variety shows if the Osmonds were also booked. What really bothered Bobby was how the Osmonds seemed to have endless members to rotate in and out. The behind-the-scenes drama got even messier when both acts were competing for the same TV appearances. Producers loved the Osmonds because they could fill an entire variety show segment, while Sherman needed backup dancers and singers. This made the Osmonds more cost-effective, which allegedly drove Sherman crazy. Things reached a breaking point when the Osmonds started getting movie deals that Sherman thought should have been his. He'd worked hard to transition from music to acting, but suddenly Hollywood was more interested in the wholesome family from Utah. Industry gossip suggested that Sherman made some pretty harsh comments about their acting abilities that never made it to print. The most telling sign of this feud? Sherman and the Osmonds were almost never photographed together at industry events, despite being at the same parties and award shows throughout the early 70s. 5. David Cassidy. At number 5, we have David Cassidy, and this was the ultimate battle of the TV heartthrobs.
Time catching up with me as you stand.
Both guys had hit songs, both had screaming teenage fans, and both were trying to prove they were serious musicians and not just pretty faces on television. But according to industry insiders, Sherman thought Cassidy was getting success handed to him on a silver platter. The Partridge Family gave Cassidy a massive platform that Sherman never had. While Sherman was grinding it out on variety shows and teen tours, Cassidy was getting his music promoted every week on primetime television. Sherman allegedly told friends that Cassidy's success was fake because it was built on a fictional TV family instead of real musical talent. What made this rivalry even more intense was that they were constantly compared in teen magazines. Girls had to choose, where are you, Team Bobby or Team David? This created a competition that went way beyond just music sales. Sherman reportedly hated how Cassidy seemed more cool and rebellious, while he was stuck with the clean-cut boy-next-door image. Behind the scenes, both singers were trying to transition into more adult careers, but Cassidy seemed to be having more success. The final straw allegedly came when Cassidy started selling more concert tickets than Sherman. For a guy who built his career on live performances and connecting with fans, watching another teen idol outsell him was devastating. Sherman never publicly admitted this rivalry, but people in the industry knew these two couldn't stand each other. Number 4, the Jackson 5. Number 4 is the Jackson 5. And this feud was all about Sherman feeling left behind by changing musical trends. When these kids from Gary, Indiana exploded onto the scene with their incredible soul sound, suddenly Sherman's pop music seemed old-fashioned and boring. The writing was on the wall, music was evolving, and Sherman wasn't evolving with it. Sherman allegedly couldn't believe that children were outshining and outdancing him. He'd worked for years to perfect his craft, and then along came little Michael Jackson, making it look effortless. Industry sources claimed that Sherman made some pretty harsh comments about how the Jackson 5 were being exploited by their record label, but really he was just jealous of their natural talent. The business side made this rivalry even worse. While Sherman was still trying to appeal mainly to white teenage girls, the Jackson 5 were conquering every demographic and making it look easy. What really bothered Sherman was how quickly the Jackson 5 dominated the charts. Songs like I Want You Back and ABC were instant classics, while Sherman was struggling to keep up with changing musical styles. He allegedly told industry friends that Motown was cheating by using such young performers, but everyone knew he was just frustrated by their success. The most painful part for Sherman was watching the Jackson 5 get the respect from music critics that he'd always wanted. They were seen as legitimate artists who were pushing music forward, while Sherman was increasingly viewed as a relic from an earlier era. This generational shift in music left Sherman feeling bitter and forgotten. The feud got so bad that Sherman reportedly avoided industry events where the Jackson 5 would be performing because he couldn't handle watching them get standing ovations while his own career was starting to fade. 3. The Bee Gees. At number 3, we have the Bee Gees, and this rivalry was about Sherman's complete rejection of the disco movement that was taking over music. When the Gibb brothers transformed from folk rock to disco superstars, Sherman allegedly saw it as everything wrong with the music industry: fake, commercial, and soulless. Sherman had built his career on wholesome pop songs that made people feel good, but disco was this completely different beast. The Bee Gees were making music for dancing and partying, while Sherman's songs were about innocent romance and teenage dreams. When Saturday Night Fever exploded, Sherman reportedly told friends that disco was killing real music. The personal side of this feud was even messier. Sherman allegedly couldn't stand how the Bee Gees reinvented themselves so dramatically. He saw their disco transformation as selling out and abandoning their artistic integrity for commercial success. Meanwhile, Sherman was struggling to stay relevant as musical tastes completely shifted away from his style. Industry insiders claim that Sherman made some brutal comments about the Bee Gees' falsetto vocals, calling them unnatural and ridiculous. He apparently thought their whole disco image was a joke and couldn't understand how audiences were taking them seriously. This wasn't just professional criticism. Sherman seemed personally offended by their success. He allegedly blamed the Bee Gees and other disco acts for destroying the music he loved. The most bitter part of this feud was that the Bee Gees proved that artists could successfully reinvent themselves, something Sherman never managed to do. Their ability to adapt and stay relevant while he faded into obscurity apparently left him feeling jealous and resentful for years. Number 2 is Donnie Osmond, and this was the most personal rivalry on our list, because both singers were so similar. They were both clean-cut teen idols, both had massive female fan bases, and both were trying to prove they were serious artists. But Sherman allegedly couldn't stand how Donnie seemed to be getting all the attention and opportunities that should have been his. The competition between these two was absolutely brutal because they were fighting for the exact same market. Teen magazines would feature one or the other on their covers, but rarely both. Sherman reportedly became obsessed with outdoing Donnie in every way possible. Better songs, better performances, better interviews. Industry insiders claimed this rivalry consumed Sherman's entire career. What made this feud so intense was that Donnie had the advantage of being part of the Osmonds family, but he was also building a successful solo career. Sherman saw this as completely unfair. Donnie got the benefits of group success plus individual recognition. Sherman allegedly told people that Donnie was double-dipping and taking opportunities away from true solo artists. The personal attacks allegedly got pretty nasty. Sherman reportedly criticized Donnie's voice, his dancing, and his acting abilities in private conversations with industry people. He claimed that Donnie's success was all manufactured by his family's management team and that he had no real individual talent. The saddest part of this rivalry was that both singers' careers eventually faded as musical tastes changed. But their personal feud reportedly continued for years, even after they were no longer competing for the same opportunities. 1. The Beatles. And here we are at number 1, the Beatles' solo careers. This might seem surprising, but Sherman allegedly had major problems with John, Paul, George, and Ringo's individual success after the band broke up. While Sherman was struggling to maintain his teen idol status, these 4 guys were effortlessly transitioning into respected adult artists, and it drove him absolutely crazy. Sherman reportedly couldn't understand how the Beatles could break up the most successful band in history and still dominate the music charts as solo artists. Songs like Imagine, My Sweet Lord, and Maybe I'm Amazed were getting critical acclaim and commercial success, while Sherman's music was being dismissed as lightweight teen pop. This apparently created a deep resentment that lasted for years. The most bitter part of this feud was that Sherman felt the Beatles had ruined the music industry for artists like him. Before the Beatles, pop music was simpler and more innocent. After them, everyone expected deeper lyrics, experimental sounds, and artistic growth. Sherman allegedly blamed them for creating impossible standards that teen idols could never meet. Industry sources claimed that Sherman made some pretty harsh comments about how the Beatles' solo work was pretentious and overrated. He apparently thought that songs like Imagine were just John Lennon showing off his intellect, while simple love songs like Sherman's were being ignored by critics and radio programmers. The most devastating aspect was that all 4 Beatles managed to have successful solo careers while maintaining their artistic credibility. Sherman could never figure out how to make that transition himself, and he reportedly spent years resenting their ability to grow as artists while he remained stuck in the teen idol box. This wasn't just professional jealousy, it was career envy that apparently haunted Sherman throughout the 70s. So there you have it, Bobby Sherman's most shocking secret rivalries. Which feud surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed these hidden music industry secrets, smash that like button and subscribe for more untold stories.